Hi everyone, my name is Caroline Vale and I am going to be discussing functional analysis procedures. So what is a functional analysis? A functional analysis is a behavioral assessment involving the manipulation of the environment to determine why a behavior occurs. So in other words, what is the function of the behavior? There are four functions of behavior: sensory, escape, attention, and tangible. As a refresher, sensory behaviors provide the learner with some sort of sensory stimulation. So, an example of this would be rocking back and forth. Escape behaviors function as a way for the child to avoid a situation or a task. So, an example of this would be running away to avoid homework. Attention behaviors result in any type of social interaction. So, an example of this is when students laugh when a peer talks out during class. Behaviors seeking access to tangibles. So, an example of this is a child engaging in tantrum behaviors to gain access to a piece of candy. Both antecedent conditions, what happens before a problem behavior, and consequences, what happens after the problem behavior, can be manipulated to contrive situations under each condition. So, the conditions that we will be discussing are the control condition, play, and four test conditions: attention, alone, escape, and tangible. During the play condition, the child has access to all of their preferred items and no demands are being placed. In my example of Play-Doh, the child is engaging with the Play-Doh freely while the evaluator is present and available, but not telling the child what to do. So they're not telling them to like roll a ball. They might be commenting and providing attention, but not telling them what to do. It is expected that behaviors in this condition would be low, but if they do occur, the evaluator would ignore the behavior or neutrally redirect it. During the attention condition, the evaluator's attention is diverted. They may be engaging in a side conversation or reading a book, but their attention is not on the child. If a problem behavior does occur, attention is given to the child, such as a verbal reprimand. So, in my example of elopement, if the behavior of elopement is maintained by attention, we would see an increase when attention was provided to the elopement. So, the adult might chase after the child while yelling at them to stop or don't do that. During the alone condition, the child is alone with low levels of environmental stimulation. So, this just means that toys are put away and no one is engaging with the child. If a problem behavior does occur, it would be ignored or neutrally directed. In my example of a child biting their own hand, if the behavior is maintained by automatic reinforcement, we would see an increase in biting during this condition. And just as a reminder, automatic reinforcement just means that the behavior is what is reinforcing and it's not socially mediated. During the escape condition, a demand is placed given least to most prompting, which we'll talk about in a second. If a problem behavior does occur, demands are no longer placed. The evaluator stops placing demands and the learner stops the task or is given a break. In my example of putting shoes on, tantruming while putting shoes on, the evaluator would say, okay, let's put on our shoes. They would start out with just that verbal prompt and provide more prompting if necessary. So they might give them a model of how to put on the shoes and then do hand over hand prompting to physically help them put on the shoes. And once a tantrum occurs, the evaluator would say something like, okay, we're all done putting on shoes, and then stop the task. If the behavior of tantruming while putting on shoes is maintained by escape, we would see an increase in behaviors when the escape from the task was provided following the problem behavior. During the tangible condition, the evaluator removes a highly preferred item or activity. So they would say, all right, it's my turn for the iPad. And if a problem behavior does occur, the iPad would then be given back to the child. So if the behavior screaming while the iPad is taken away is maintained by access to tangibles, we would see an increase in behaviors when access was provided following the problem behavior. And those are my references. Thank you.